What is going on, everyone? Just doing a random live stream this morning here in Australia, about to do some stuff with the family, so I thought I'd sit down and just a bit of chinwag in the comments. You guys got any questions, or just talk about some random things that I've seen in the hobby over the last couple of weeks. So nothing really planned, but if anything pops up, just let us know in the comments and we'll sort of chat through it. How's it going, Robert? There's only a couple of people in the chat so far, so obviously start asking away if you've got any questions. If not, we'll just wait for a few others to join, and then I'll start going through, whatever random thoughts I had for today. It's currently 9 a.m., quarter to 10 in the morning on Saturday. What time is it ever in the US? I was getting confused with the time zones, and apologies, you're going to hear my kids running around making noise in the background. They're both having a good morning today. They're just, wrestling with each other, just being, your typical 3-year-olds and 1-year-old. So if you hear them yelling, that's what it's about. I do apologize. But yeah, what time is it for you, Robert? Or are you based in Australia too? Nice. Says my internet connection's not that good, so just let me know in the comments if it's dropping out or anything like that. But it seems fine, but StreamYard is saying it's unstable. So yeah, let me know. How's it going, Tim? How's it going, Ryan? Not bad. You guys just finished work, or you've got a chill Friday anyway? So we can get started if anyone has any questions. Just start dropping them in the comments, and then we can chat through it. There's a couple of things I want to chat through today. Just show off a few pickups that I've had recently. I've showed them off in recent videos, but the YouTube algorithm has hated me a lot lately. I've not really been pushing my videos, which is really weird. The engagement on the videos themselves are quite good, but people aren't getting videos pushed towards them, which is very, very annoying. So if you can, give it a like and a follow. If you can't, that's also fine. But yeah, I'll show off some cards because, like I said, not many people have seen them. Not bad. What's the weather like for you, Tim? It's actually pretty good here in Sydney at the moment. We've got nice sunny weather, obviously heading back into summer. And it's been good because the winter was bloody miserable. Like, it's just so cold. Obviously not as cold as it gets in the States in some locations, but yeah, just given how hot it gets here in Sydney, the winter is not fun. Congrats on being retired, Robert. How's it going, Rugs Capital? Like I said, I'll just show off some cards. I've not really bought a whole lot lately. I found a bit hard. Obviously the hobby's like booming again, right? We're seeing a record-breaking prices when it comes to, high-end cards and things like that. And I just felt like there's a lot of stuff that's really overpriced at the moment, and there's not a whole lot out there that I actually want. So I've sort of been really calculated with what it is I've been chasing, but the stuff that I have picked up is pretty cool, actually. I've shown this before, so if you have been watching the videos, you would have seen this Larry Bird Eminence patch auto from the first year of Eminence, which is 2014. This has been on my watch list, a save search list on eBay for 3 years, because I was hoping to get one a long time ago. They weren't really popping up that often. When they were, I was, missing out because they were selling for like a lot more than what I thought they were. So I was just, being patient, hoping to try and get it for a good price. And then, there was one that was listed on eBay, this one in particular, that I think the person had listed for like $1,200 USD or $1,400 USD, which is a lot more than I wanted to pay. And it was sitting there for ages. I've kept, sending the guy messages and then sent some offers. And I was chatting to a few people like Steve Splendor, who's been on the channel before. And I sent like a really low ball offer. I think I sent like a $400 offer or something, on a $1,200 card. And some people don't like doing that. But for me, you often, get, opportunities to buy cards at that price. And the guy basically said, hey, I can't do 400, but if you want to do 500 outside of eBay, we can. And I got this $500 posted US, which I think is a steal, to be perfectly honest with you. Given what they've sold for, like ideally, I've said before, I'd prefer the golds out of the bases in Eminence, but it's one of those things, you just need to get what you can get. And again, people get offended with lowball offers all the time. Like for me personally, that's the aim of the game for me on eBay. I put offers available on all the cards that I have listed when they're not going for auction, because I want people to lowball me. I want people to start that conversation, but some people just see it and get, so offended that they don't even, have the conversation. So had this guy done that, he wouldn't have sold the card to me, right? He would have got offended, told me to F off, and, missed out completely. So, I'm happy they did. And obviously that often often works. And yeah, there's a lot of things that are overpriced. I think there are still things that you can get for good prices. Like for me personally, right, this is first year release of Eminence. It's an on-card auto. I like the gold auto. People don't like it. I like the patch windows in these. They are game worn. Something like this, for $500 for a first year release of a product is really good in my opinion. When you've got patch autos in Flawless that do look nicer. Yes, I'll give that credit. I like Flawless the best out of all the sets that Panini have released. But the patch autos in Flawless for Larry Bird from early years of Flawless, i.e. first year, second year, third year, are like 10 grand Australian. They're like significantly more expensive, 10 times more expensive. It's just insane to me how you've got that discrepancy. So that's the hobby in a nutshell, right? Where you've got people, focusing on things and you've got weird values being placed. But yeah, it is what it is. Rugs Capital, this is a creepy question, but we'll preface it with, I'm in Canada. Regarding your last vid, do worry about a wrench attack, peeps. Know you have cards. I've thought about that in the past, to be honest. If people want to try something, they can come try it. To be perfectly honest with you, I've also pissed off a lot of people, in Australia when I've called out scammers, having in the US as well. I've met some of these people in person when I've gone to shows, like the show in Asia, when I've gone to shows locally. A lot of people like to talk and not really do anything. So if they want to, try and create some drama over cards, they can go ahead and do it. But yeah, it's one of those things, mate. Like, if you see bullshit, you have to call it out. And, it is what it is, right? Jeff Wilson had a thumbnail of him with a black eye, making it look like he got beaten at a card show. Turns out it was a completely different dealer who got mugged over Pokemon. What's wrong with Jeff? I don't really get offended by stuff like that, right? It's thumbnails on YouTube, right? They're there to sort of get you, and it sounds like he got you with that one. Jeff does a lot worse things than, dodgy thumbnails. Tim D, what do you think about the PSA price increase and how will you think it would affect the secondary collectors market? I don't think it's going to have any impact at all on the secondary market because you're already finding that there are slab cards getting graded today, right? Yesterday, how do I say? My brain's not working this morning, guys. You've already got slabs selling for less than the grading prices, right? And they're still being pumped through the door at PSA. So I don't think the price increase is going to impact all that much. People are just insane. They want to try and get volume through the door. They want to try and get as many cards graded. Maybe we'll see slightly less cards get graded these days, but I don't see that happening. People are stupid. And we've seen that time and time again with the volume that we've seen over the last 12 months. People just go from strength to strength with their stupidity. So I don't remember what the amounts were. I got told about the price increase about 2 weeks before PSA dropped it. Somebody reached out to me off the record and said it was coming. I thought about doing a video on it, but I didn't think it was super, necessary. And now in hindsight, maybe I could have put a video out about it so people could have got the lower prices in and locked in a cheaper grade. But, it is what it is. I think it's an interesting one. I'm really curious to see how it's going to play out and whether it actually impacts volumes and whether we actually see a difference, or whether we're going to see more of the same. Boxes of Eminence in Boxes of Eminence in any sports are extraordinary expensive and go for multi-$1,000s per box. Yeah, like I've seen them, when they first released, right? I was very into breaking around 2014-15, which is when this started popping off with basketball and stuff like that. And you'd watch people open that product, and it would just be amazing to open, right? No one's ever going to pay that amount of money that isn't, a multi-millionaire for one of those boxes. But it would have been fun to open something like that, considering how good these cards look. And obviously I've seen Eminence cards in person before, but this is the first one that I've ever, owned. And they just feel like more than just a collectible. They feel like more than just a piece of cardboard, which sounds dumb. They just have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Provenance around them. They just feel better than just a random collectible. So I don't understand why you can get that for $500, but then if you want to buy an equivalent of his of on-card auto match worn from Flawless, it's literally 20 times the price. Like, make that make sense to me. It does not make sense. And then I also showed this off recently too. I basically bought this a week later. So this is from Eminence Soccer 2018. I showed this in a recent video as well. So now I've got 2 cards in Eminence after having none for so many years. This one's obviously soccer. Fabio Cannavaro, Italy captain at the 2006 World Cup. Italy won that World Cup. This set, this insert's related to the World Cup win. It says 2006 World Cup over there. So I just thought, get this and sort of, add it to the PC, because stuff like that does not come up often. I use that as a talking point. So I'm curious to get your guys' thoughts on this down in the comments, right? There are a lot of cards out there now that are selling for ridiculous amounts of money, and it's almost like they're overpriced and, are they going to retain that value? And you being a collector, you want to buy these things, right? Because they don't come up very often, but you sort of have to juggle with the fact that they're selling for crazy amounts of money and they're only being listed now because people are trying to capitalize on that money. And you might not see these cards get listed again for a number of months or years. And as a collector, it's a really hard thing to juggle. Like, do you overpay or do you risk overpaying in a market that you don't feel super comfortable in to try and get that card that you might not see again anytime soon? And it's one of those ones, I want to know how you guys, deal with that and how that works out and how that plays out in your mind. Because this Fabio Cannavaro cost me, I think, $100 more than that Larry Bird. And it's probably more than I wanted to pay, but one of these hasn't sold. I think I looked at comps. One of these had not sold in like 6 years. And obviously you've got the World Cup coming up now, so you've got people trying to cash in on that. But for me, I'm like, I've wanted one of his cards for a long time. He captained Italy to that World Cup. I am Italian. So for me, it's like, do I risk overpaying in what is a bubble market, or do I risk never seeing this thing again? And I want to know, again, I'm repeating myself, how you guys think about that with your collection, because it's a really tricky thing to navigate. You think the manufacturers should raise prices, like double prices? Why they're leaving? Yeah, like this is something that I've never really understood about what the manufacturers are doing. And this is why I thought with Fanatics coming on board, we might see a bit of control on the secondary market, because I don't understand why they're leaving that revenue on the table. Like, why is a Fanatics willing to sell a box, at $300 or whatever these, Topps basketball boxes are selling for, and then on the secondary market see them sell for 3 times the price? It's why are they comfortable doing that? Are they doing that because they want to try and, get more boxes distributed across the wider market? They want to generate that hype, and if people are sort of going crazy for the lack of supply, they're going to push prices up. It's going to keep the buzz going in the hobby. It's going to keep more people involved. It's going to keep more people buying cards long term. Like, maybe that's what they're thinking about. But from my mind, when Fanatics first came on board, I said, hey, they got Fanatics Live. Why don't they just force everybody to sell their product on their platform? You cannot buy the product from Fanatics unless you sell it on their platform, or unless you're a store. And then, if you are a store, you're forbidden from selling that whole box to another person to, then break on a different platform. Like, they've got so much ability there to control that secondary market where they can make a lot of money, right? And the thought process I had was they sell a box to the breaker then sells that on Fanatics Live. Fanatics make a commission of every single sale. Like, that's a lot of revenue left on the table. And it's just really interesting that, Panini did nothing about it for years. And then, Fanatics don't appear to have done anything about it either. So I'm not sure if there's anything, from a restrictive trade, or maybe there's something in their agreement that they can't just change overnight. But it's one of those ones. It's odd how they're willing to leave that much revenue, out there for others to sort of take home. Skipping the breakers, exactly. And I feel like that's a way, with what I just mentioned, to sort of control the market too. Because when I first started talking about this, it was through the lens of Whatnot and Fanatics Live. And it was through the lens of, well, you've got all these breakers, all these scumbags ripping people off. They're, not doing the right things. They're not following the standards that Topps or a Panini or any business in this space would want them to do, right? They don't want to see people get scammed. But these platforms sort of allow that to happen. So if they were controlling the supply better, and they were restricting people with where they can and can't sell their product, and they were saying, hey, if you want to be a distributor or be part of our distribution network, you have to and can only sell on our platform, they could then go ahead and say, hey, and when you're selling on our platform, you cannot do X, Y, Z. Like, obviously they've got these rules in place now, but they don't really enforce them that well. But if you've got a business that can only, make their money by, breaking cards, and they can only do that if they're buying it from Fanatics, and they can only do that if they don't piss off Fanatics, then Fanatics can control that platform and force people to, follow by the rules. And you might see a lot of these, dickheads basically that, rip people off sort of disappear, because the second they do something wrong, Fanatics can then say, hey, you know what, you're banned for life. You cannot buy any more product from us. And if we catch somebody who's selling your product, we're going to ban them too. And obviously that's really controlling for what should be a free market. But when you've looked at all the issues that have happened in this space, in particular with breaking platforms and repacks and selling platforms in general, that's a way for them to fix it. Now, whether they do that or not, whether they, want to do that, that's another question. Whether they can actually enforce it, like what we've just seen with this whole Whatnot repack situation. They've come out with all these new rules on how repacks should work and what they're mandating. But the key question is, are they actually going to police it? Are they going to hold people accountable? And with what we've seen in the past with Whatnot, probably not. So it's one of those things where, again, you can have all these rules in place. You can say all these things need to be better, but fundamentally, they don't really, care enough. So anyway, it is what it is. With the gambling aspect of breaks and repacks, any talk in your country regarding some type of oversight? Not really. I'm not sure if it's like this in the States too, but when you have those Facebook groups where people run razzes, and you'll go ahead and buy spots, basically a break, and they'll use random.org, and they'll randomize the 10 spots and give the card away to the person who wins, and everybody pays, blah blah blah. groups like that run on the sly, right? Because people have reported them in the past to, I think it's like the Lottery Commission or something. You have to have a license in order to run those kinds of raffle type events. And people have been reported on that in the past. But I've not seen or heard anything with regards to breaking specifically. But in all honesty, if you were to pick the two countries, US or Australia, which one was going to happen first, it would be Australia for sure. If it was big enough here for, politicians to notice, I think they would 100% try and capitalize on that revenue, and they would therefore classify it as gambling. And I don't think we're far away from seeing that, in other places in the world too. And I think what we're seeing here with repacks, like I've said before, is maybe that step in the right direction. Now, on that thumbnail, you're going to see I put something in there about Whatnot. And this is not Whatnot, Fanatics. Collectors MD shared this on Instagram. I shared it to my story today about somebody that was using Fanatics Live for a while. They obviously hadn't used it for quite some time. And they got an email from Fanatics basically saying, here's a $50 credit to come back and buy on our platforms. And that is, what gets really tricky, right? That's what gets really sketchy when it comes to that whole gambling element and sort of the degeneracy that Whatnot and Fanatics are trying to push on their customers. It's just ridiculous to me how you can sort of have that, happen. And people say, well, it's not gambling. You've got a business sending you free credit to get you to go on their platform to spend more money. And when you think about, the actions for you to go on Fanatics Live, right? I'm going to sit here on my phone right now and pretend I'm bidding, right? I'm just pressing my thumb. That is no different to you going on a gambling app and doing the same thing. And it's not the process where you're getting a card here that makes it okay for me. It's the nature of it, right? That's what the similarities are to gambling. The fact that people can chase their tail and get into significant debt. And then you've got people on these platforms, back to what I was saying earlier, about Whatnot and Fanatics not controlling people better and not holding people accountable. You go into these rooms and people are like begging customers to spend more money, and they're expecting them to double down. They're expecting them to spend more. It's just not a nice thing a lot of the time. So yeah, apologies for that rant. I expect to see it in some capacity, right? You can't keep pushing things the way that you are, especially with what Fanatics is doing with their gambling book. It's going to happen at some point, right? And whether that's self-regulation, like I've said before, or you're actually going to see somebody come in and say, hey, we've got to sort our shit out. It's going to happen. I can't see it not happening. In the last couple of months, I've been focusing on vintage baseball, 60s to 80s, only myself catching up on Hall of Famers like Tim Raines and many others. That's good. Are you finding it's cheaper, vintage at the moment? I've not really paid super close attention to vintage cards. Obviously, the high-end stuff from that era is selling for a lot, but yeah, keen to get your thoughts. Bill, how's it going, mate? For the people that have recently joined in, I'm only going to stay until about 10:30, 10:45 Australian time, so another 45 minutes or so. I've got to do stuff with the family today, but if you can you please like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed? I think you have subscribed if you are here, but please like the video because the YouTube algorithm has literally been cruel to me in the last 3 months. My videos are not getting anywhere near the views it did in the past, and it's not because people are not liking what I'm doing. It's because YouTube is just literally not pushing those videos, right? All my metrics are consistent, month on month, year on year. I just don't know what I'm doing wrong, and it's really demotivating, to be perfectly honest with you. I do this for fun because I want to help people as well, but to sort of see those numbers in YouTube not really push anything, it sucks. So if you can like the video, that would be amazing. If you don't want to, that's also fine, no pressure. But yeah. What's not the Wild West? Unfortunately, a lot of stuff around the world, especially with collectibles, is the Wild West these days. 60 Minutes Australia is better than the OG. And to be honest, all mainstream media is pretty crap these days. You're absolutely right about that. I'm assuming about 60 Minutes. Let's see that Flawless Pirlo card again. I've actually got it right here to show off. So this is probably one of the cooler things that I've picked up for quite some time. I got this graded with PSA alongside a Frank Lampard solo game. And I shipped them back with those orders with the Larry Bird and Fabio Cannavaro that I just showed off. Flawless Soccer, it's such a shame that they only did 1 year release of this. And it's because the product didn't sell well. And what was really shitty for me is I was only just starting at work when this released. I was a graduate. I just graduated uni. So I was making like sweet F all money, and nobody in Australia was really breaking Flawless. So for me to try and get these cards back then, they were cheap, but the postage home was like $200. It was like, 10 times the price of what the cards were selling for. Now, in hindsight, I would have been well off having bought them, but I just had no money at the time because I was, fresh out of uni, going to work, had, a wedding to pay for, life in general. But yeah, one of those things is really frustrating that they were selling for so cheap, but people didn't care about it at the time. So he's a Frank Lampard saw the game as well. I'm a big Chelsea fan. He's a Chelsea legend. It's just crazy. It's crazy to me. Like, how that didn't kick off, yet you're seeing the prices these sets are selling for now. And it's purely because nobody in America cared about soccer back then because of the way Panini pushed it. But I just can't believe they only ever did 1 year release of it. It's just insane to me. Now, I've got another one over here that I've shown before. This is not what I've had graded. I bought this like 2 years ago or something. So it's a Willian, another Chelsea player, Brazil player as well. I mean, a PSA 8. I think I got that for like $100 US. And this was like in 2022 at the very peak. So this stuff still sells for so cheap. I don't understand why, Flawless Soccer, in particular, the Solar Game insert, sells for so cheap compared to these other, random parallels that you get for soccer, just normal base cards and things like that. They play with their feet. It's got a boot relic in there. Why is this not the thing that people actually want when it comes to collecting soccer cards? I don't get it. And maybe I'm off my chops, but for me, it's like a no-brainer to buy that crap. They play with their bloody feet. It's so unique. It's a no-brainer to go ahead and buy it. And obviously, please don't buy the things that I'm trying to buy because I want them for my PC. You personally collect Topps Chrome, Bowman Chrome, and finest refractors of the 90s. You're seeing the Hall of Fame player prices continuing to rise. What's your take on these long term? Like, to be honest, I don't look at things like that, to be perfectly honest with you. It's too hard to judge, right? And, I'm not in the detail on a lot of those sets, but the thing I will say is, if there's a set that you want and there's a set that you like and you feel vindicated enough to buy it, go ahead and buy it. But if you're concerned about the pricing, do exactly what I do. These two cards that I showed off here, right? I've purchased these. I think I spent like $1,100 USD to get both of them, or $1,000 USD to get both of them. Now, I not spent on cards for quite some time because I was waiting for good things to buy. But when these did pop up, I'm like, okay, I need to buy them. I want them for my PC. But $1,000 for me to spend on cards is still a lot of money, right? Like, I hate spending even $100 on cards because they're just collectibles for me. I'd rather put the money towards my family. So the way I do that and way to circumvent that risk that you're talking about here and whether these things are going to perform long term is that I'll basically buy and flip cards, right? And I'll do that to build up some profit. And then I use that profit to buy the cards that I want for my PC. So hypothetically, if this card goes to zero, I spent $600 on it or $550, whatever it was, but I paid for it with profits. So technically, if it goes to zero, I've not actually taken money away from my family. Now, sure, you could say, hey, I could have put those profits towards my family in the first place, but by approaching it like that, it means I can keep collecting cards because I love collecting cards, or I've done it my whole life, and I can go ahead and chase things my PC, but do it in a way that doesn't impact anything else. And if things go to shit, it makes it basically, risk-free. And if the market goes from strength to strength, then I sell it for a profit, then I've got even more profit. So, approach things like that, and that will sort of answer your question, right? Like, don't focus on sets and things that everyone else has gone bananas for unless you feel vindicated. But if you get concerned, just take that approach. So, you guys in the comments can let me know what you think about that, but that's how I've always approached collecting. I hate, spending money on things because I get really self-conscious about, well, I could have done something else with that, or I could have bought this or bought that. Like, to me, I just feel very selfish, I think is the word I'm looking for. So that just helps with that feeling. Your collection is of teams and players you love. Boston, some of my cards are very valuable, but money doesn't matter. Cool cards are cool cards. Completely agree. And if you sort of, where a lot of people think go wrong in the modern hobby, back to what I was saying earlier, is they just follow the trends. Like, collect cards, buy what you like, buy what you think's cool, because what you'll often find, the reason why you want it as a collector is going to be the reason why somebody else wants it long term. And people just follow the sheep and do dumb things. But from, my perspective, if I'm a soccer collector and I want something of Andrea Pirlo, it's going to be this card long term. And for me, that's why I want to own it today. Because I know maybe in 10 years' time, I'm not going to be able to afford it. But people don't think like that. They say, oh, well, these other inserts are selling for 10 times the price. But it's like, why? Why do you see stuff like that happen? You guys would see it often, like the true RPAs you see out of NT, like the out of 99s, which is considered the true RPA, if I remember correctly, sell for more than the out of 50s. Why does that happen? There's more of them. There's twice as many of them. Why does that happen? Because the hobby has these dumb biases in place. People are stupid and they just follow what everyone else is doing. But in reality, who would pick the out of 99 over the out of 50? Like, ever? Who would ever do that? If you go and ask anybody on the street that didn't know anything about cards and you explain to them what serial numbered cards were, who would pick the out of 99 over the out of 50 when you also tell them the out of 50 is cheaper? So yeah, share your thoughts on that line of thinking. I just don't understand how people, do that. Solid copy, only 10 of them. Yeah, unfortunately, I think there is, of the Pirlo I think you're referring to, I think there is a PSA 10 out there, and I'm not sure if that's ever going to see the light of day, but, I would love to get a PSA 10 of that copy. Yes, I don't care about grades, but when it comes for scarce cards, I think it does matter, and it just seems a bit cooler. But I like the golds better than the greens. I'm not a huge fan of the 101 blacks that they did that year. The black shimmer on the card itself doesn't look that good. The gold looks the best. The greens obviously sell for more because they're out of 5, but I like to look at the gold better. And that sort of contradicts what I've just said about the out of 99 versus the out of 50. But it is what it is. I'm not going to pay 4 times the price for an out of 5 when I can get, you know, the out of 10 for, you know, significantly cheaper. You went a long stretch where you weren't seeing my videos. I thought you took, like, I did reduce the videos a little bit because I think I mentioned ages ago that I was focusing on a promotion at work, which thankfully, you know, I got. But what sort of happened was, like, my videos literally stopped getting pushed. And what you can see in the analytics, maybe I'll do a video on this one day. You can see the metrics, right? So you can see the number of impressions, and what the impressions mean is the people that are seeing your videos pop up in their feed. And that had dropped significantly. But yet when people were clicking on my videos, the watch time, the interaction with comments and likes was the same proportion as what it was always being. So it wasn't like people stopped watching my videos because they don't like me. It's because they just weren't seeing them. And I think it goes to what you've said. So, you know, if you can like the videos, put the notification bell on. I don't really ever ask for that, but that'll help with this because I don't understand, you know, what's going on. It's just so random and it's very demotivating. I'm here to, like I said, help people. So for me, it's a passion project. I don't do it for my ego, but when you sort of put effort in and then YouTube just basically doesn't push it, it's sort of like it hurts. Like it sounds, you know, very beta to say, but it doesn't hurt my feelings, but it just doesn't make me feel good, if that makes sense. Because it's like, well, what am I doing wrong? And it's not fun, but yeah. Tell me about it. I've had a YouTube channel since 2011 myself. My numbers are always up and down, and that's what I've noticed as well. But this time it just feels different, right? Consistency is key. There's going to be ebbs and flows. But this time just, you know, feels very different. And thank you, JB. Appreciate that. $4.99. Your wife's out of town. I watch your live for an hour until the MLB playoffs start. Thank you for joining. I'm probably going to drop off in about half an hour to 45 minutes, which is what I said at the intro. I've got to do stuff with the family today. I thought I'd do a quick one. But the plan's going to be to try and do these the same time every week from now onwards, or maybe a bit later so you guys in the States can actually join after work. What's the channel, Robert? I'm assuming it's Robert Chattel or Chattel. I'm not sure how you pronounce your surname, so I do apologize if I got that wrong, but we can check it out. Thanks for shouting that out. Rugs, all the comments gone that I just clicked on. And again, thanks again, JB. To co-sign, even though I'm subscribed and watch and like every video, YouTube pushes your video further down my feed. Maybe I should comment the fishing video was the last time I commented. That would be, you know, really appreciative. I'm going to try and do another fishing video over this summer. I did one 12 months ago now, almost 12 months ago, but no one really liked it, but I'm happy to still put it out there because I enjoyed putting it together. I'll make it a bit more short and sharp, but if you can, that would be great. Like, comment, but it's one of those things, it's not just you, right? So it's just, this is YouTube pushing it in the back end. So again, if you can help, that would be amazing, but there's no pressure to do it. Thanks again, JB. How's it going, Vitalik? Is there a sport in Australia that catches a discount to comps? I feel like soccer trades at a discount here will likely swing as the World Cup closes in. Do you mean like a US sport or an Australian specific sport? Because Aussies I would say there's probably more of a premium for everything here in Australia, because Australia is like sport fanatic mad, right? We obviously have our local sports. Soccer's got a big following here. But the US sports in particular, people go bananas for, right? Basketball in particular is huge. So I feel like cards sell at a premium here in Australia versus what they do in the US. And that is because, like you can see in that little banner flickering across the bottom of the screen right now, a lot of people don't use services like Ship My Cards, meaning that when they do go ahead and buy cards from overseas, they have to pay ridiculous taxes. They have to, you know, pay the postage fees, which is going to be like $200-300 Australian to get things shipped to here, and it takes months. So people basically, you know, bake that into the price point because they know that if somebody else wants to get the same sort of thing, it's going to be hard for them to sort of get it from the US. Now, obviously, Ship My Cards makes that so easy, which is why you should use it if you're not. But yeah, I would say all sports basically trade as a premium. Like if I was to say one US sport, it's probably baseball, to be honest, that sells pretty poorly compared to the others. But, you know, I would say everything has a premium. In particular, the local sports. The local sports sell for a lot more than, you know, what they should, i.e. like the rugby and the AFL. Now, in terms of some other cards I picked up recently, I got this in a box that I ripped myself. This is from the Lord of the Rings Fellowship of the Ring set. So it's got a piece of movie memorabilia in there. These were one per box, if I remember correctly. And you also have the chance to get autographs. I don't know if they were used on screen, but I think they were used to help create the stuff that went on screen. So maybe this is just all the leftover crap that never made it on screen. But I really like this set. I have the Christopher Lee autograph, which I recently sold, and that essentially funded these two cards, and it's because I felt a bit uncomfortable owning that Christopher Lee card, but I sold it for a good profit. So, like I said, I paid for these, which is good. So I'm trying to build this set. I've got one from the Return of the King set they released, which is of the Witch King over here. Again, piece of movie memorabilia. I just like this sort of stuff. These are the kind of things that I've always liked to collect. Unfortunately, as I've said before, this kind of pop culture movie type cards often sell for a lot more here in Australia. Like, these things have always been expensive. So, you know, when I was trying to buy them 10 years ago and 15 years ago when these sets were releasing, or even 20 years ago in the case of these Lord of the Rings sets, I couldn't afford them then because people, you know, are collector mad in Australia. People collect things like crazy here. And that's one of the cool things about being on this part of the world, because people appear to be very collector focused first and foremost. You know, you see all these card show vlogs in the US and everybody is flipper focused, or it seems to be. I went to the show in Macau a few years ago that's actually on now, again, the third year. And it was the same sort of thing. People were very much focused on flipping rather than collecting, but you go to a show here in Australia and everyone's talking about cards first and foremost. And sure, you've got people flipping, but I just feel like the community here is very much more focused on collecting still. And maybe that's because our population is so small, but it is what it is. And hockey, I forgot about hockey. Yeah, so you know, the tiers in Australia would be, you know, in terms of prices, maybe it's the same as the States. It'd be, you know, basketball, football, baseball, and then hockey. So maybe that's the order that it is in the US as well. But the price discrepancies, like the basketball and the football, are selling for crazy premiums. The other two are just, you know, completely, you know, forgotten about, unfortunately. So yeah, they were the cards I wanted to show off. I don't think there's anything else on my desk here that I think is worth showing off. I got this. This is from an A-League soccer set, which is like the equivalent of our MLS. I busted open a box. This was from the first year that it was released the other day. And I got Archie Thompson, who plays for Melbourne Victory. He played for Australia, played at World Cup. So happy to get that. It's numbered 202 out of 550. But what I've had a really hard time on researching is I don't think every player had 550 autographs, because who's going to sign 550 times? I think the 550 relates to the whole autograph set. So I've got that listed for sale on my eBay page because I'm not a Melbourne supporter, but if I end up keeping it, I end up keeping it. Same here, mainly basketball and football fight for first place. Yeah, I think basketball here is like head and shoulders above football, to be perfectly honest with you. Hockey's always last, but it's probably different in Canada, right? Hockey would be probably the number one sport over there. Maybe I'm wrong. You guys can let me know in the comments. But yeah, I've not, like I said in the intro, I've not bought a whole lot lately. It's been a challenge because there's just things are so expensive, and I just don't want to pay ridiculous amounts of money for things that I think are going to come down in price. And you know, maybe things aren't going to come down in price. Maybe this is the new norm, and this is just me being too pessimistic or me just being too apprehensive. But I don't know. I don't know if you guys are feeling the same. It just feels, you know, a bit uncomfortable. It feels very frothy and very bubbly for me at the moment. And when you're talking about, you know, all these record-breaking prices, it's just I don't know. Maybe I'm not making sense. You guys let me know. Waxing Junk, how's it going, mate? Hope you're doing well. It's a nice sunny day here in Australia today, so I'm looking forward to just chilling with the family. I might go cut the grass afterwards. The wife will put me to work. You guys know how it is if you guys are married. But yeah, any other questions you wanted to talk through? I've actually, had tattoos. How's it going, Ted? I don't think you've commented yet. I've actually had tattoos, but in the last 12 months, I've had both my sleeves done, and I'll do my back next. So I sort of had, I only had, like, I had a half sleeve, but it was like all random crap. But now it's like traditional Japanese. I can't show it off properly, but let's see. It's partial covered up as well, which is why, like, this is not traditional Japanese color, but this is a dragon sleeve onto a chest plate. You can't see because your comment's in the way. But you can see there, where's the camera? Dragon sleeve there. Then this one's also a dragon sleeve. But this one's like more of a color. This is where I had my half sleeve. So it's a bit, you can sort of see some of the stuff coming through still, but I wanted it to balance. So this one got finished the other day. We're going to do my back next. Or there's like one flower that he has to do, but he's going to do my back. So full back piece, full Japanese style, which I really like. This chest panel will get done. At some point, he's going to do my back, then my front, and then he'll do the chest panel to make it all blend. We did this one first before we decided to do everything else. But yeah, you see it goes all the way down. So fun. I had it. I was getting tattooed this time last week, actually, to finish off this portion of my sleeve. You can sort of see here it's Still scabbing a little bit, still flaky, but this was all a cover-up, including this koi. This koi was already there. I got it done when I was like 18. I'm 35 now to give you guys context. So I've had it for a long time, but just trying to bring some balance. But I'm going to have to get the elbows done again. You can see here, the scales that he did the other day have already fallen out a bit. So not fun, but it is what it is. You only collect naked rugby cards of men or ladies. You collect tennis. I know it's huge in Australia. I've had some stuff. I've got a couple of things from breaks that I entered years ago, but not really the newer stuff. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's it's obviously going to be angel wings. It's not. I'm still deciding what it's going to be. I can put it on, but I actually saw someone random post the other day of some dude that actually got angel wings, which is probably a little bit too feminine for me, but you know, people can do what they want. We should get a Jeff Wilson tattoo. What are your thoughts on that, Dusty? They do, especially here in Australia, artists charge a lot more, but there's so many, and we've got so many good tattoo artists. My guy's he's from Korea, grew up in Korea, trained in Japan, so he's very traditional, and I obviously really like it, but yeah, each to their own. Great symbolism, yeah, like that's part of the appeal. Like I like the fact, like if you haven't seen it before, it's worth looking into like the tattoo history in Japan and what they mean and sort of how it came about and sort of how it was underground. And from what I recall, it really wasn't until like the US were there, I think it was post World War II, maybe a little bit afterwards, that things actually became a bit more mainstream and people started feeling a bit more comfortable, because it's obviously very criminal related and very underworld related in the history of Japan and with the Yakuza and stuff like that. But the overall history behind it, how it transitioned from things like woodblock prints and kunioshi and all that kind of stuff is like good looking into. Breaking news, Mojo just posted saying he's not opening a card shop. But did that really happen? Because didn't he already, I'm sure I've seen videos from that guy. He was like buying inventory, but he was buying like shelving and stuff for the store. So it's interesting to see why that's not happening. Like, he's one of those guys, I feel a bit sorry for him because he's a young kid, right? He's just trying to make his way in life. And I feel like he's a bit misguided and he feels like he doesn't know what he wants to be doing. And I feel that comes out a lot with the videos that he's putting out. He's just trying to make things work. And I've said before, maybe this is me too much reading into things. He doesn't look happy, right? You watch his videos, but I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but you watch his eyes, it doesn't seem like a happy dude. He feels like he's a bit lost. So maybe this just speaks to that, or maybe this is me talking out of my ass. You guys can let me know. But yeah, if I was ever going to get sleeves, would want them colored well like yours, appreciate it. The coloring is actually the fun part. The line work is what sucks, at least for me. It's so much more painful, but the colors go in really easy. And from a Japanese perspective, like just their art style, it makes it really pop with the bold, thick outlines and the black background, so it makes the subject matter really stand out. And the colors just, awesome. Smartest thing he's ever said, was that me or Mojo? Probably Mojo, saying he's not going to open his store. Like, yeah, to do it a store, like, it's a big effort, right? And like, he's got a big following, but again, it's really hard. You look at some of these guys on YouTube that have these really hundreds of thousands of subscribers, and they're not really getting anyone watching them. And when you're talking about, yes, you were talking about Mojo, when you're talking about people like him that have made probably a lot of money over the last 3 to 4 years through sponsors and through video content, it's probably a bit misguided. And when you're only... like, what's what I'm looking for here? Like, your only advantage to being that big was being one of the first guys to do it. It doesn't really carry much weight anymore when anybody can pick up a camera now and anybody can do the same sort of thing, and anybody can sort of jump in that has more business experience than you. So the differentiator you had to stand out on YouTube is not going to be the same thing for you to stand out with a card store. It's just not the same thing. I just think there's a lot of people out there that are really, misguided, and it's sad to see. Sad to see, because he's such a young guy. I feel like he's a bit lost. So again, maybe I'm talking out of my ass, but it is what it is. The red's come out good. It's showing up a bit weird on camera. Like you can see here, it looks like it's a bit patchy. It's not like that in person. It's because that's where there was a cover up. So I had like a neo-traditional geisha there, and I started getting it lasered off. I think I did like 3 or 4 laser sessions. Laser sucks, by the way, if you've ever had it. It's like 20 times worse than getting tattooed itself. I'd rather have someone sit there on my elbow all day and drill with a machine rather than getting laser done again. But it sort of looks like it's patchy. It's not the case in person. It just looks a bit weird on camera. Like there is patchy. You can see there in the black where some of the ink fell out, but it's solid red in person. I actually do have a Dragon Ball Z tattoo. I won't show it now because it's on my thigh. It's going to be a bit inappropriate to bring up, but I've got like maybe I'll put a photo on Instagram if you really want to see it that badly. But I've got like on the front of my calf, I've got 4 panels of there from the manga, which is pretty cool. But I might get that covered because I think I'm going to work towards getting a full bodysuit at some point. The wife doesn't want that to happen, but maybe I'm going through a midlife crisis. Mojo has no cash to do it, and that's what he's sort of probably relying on too. Because when you, like what I said earlier, you've got all this income coming in purely because you've got a camera and you're walking around, and I think that's inflated some egos. Because what do you know about the real world? He talks about the fact that he hasn't really done anything career-wise. Like he wanted to be a lawyer, if I remember correctly, and then didn't really do much with that. So he's still very much fresh in the mind, and obviously he wants to be an entrepreneur and all those kinds of things. But it's men against boys, right? Kind of thing. Where you've got people out there that actually know what they're doing. Like you're not going to compete with Tom Brady's card vault. He could open stores in every town around the country, around the world, if he wanted to. Like you can't compete with that. And you're just a guy with a camera at the end of the day, versus all these people that have, all this business experience, acumen, all these connections. So, it is, what it is. Like, and I don't laugh. I give the guy crap, right? I've called him out for some of the things he's done in the past. But from my perspective, I just see him as a young man that looks lost. And I don't like seeing that. So I'm repeating myself now, obviously. But yeah, you guys can share your thoughts. Like I said, Mark, I've got that leg sleeve so I can show it to you on Instagram if you want to see it. You survived 4 years in the Navy and a decades of drunken decision following that and managed to totally avoid any tattoos. We did pretty well, even without being drunk or in the military. But firstly, thank you for your service, obviously. But even without doing that, I got a few bad tattoos. So I'm glad that I'm finally covering them. In an ideal world, there's a few things here that could be better with my sleeves because they've had to cover certain things. Like this koi fish that I got when I was 18, I'd prefer to have not had it. But I think I don't really care. I think it looks a lot better now than it did before. Now I say thank you. Just looked at high-end product soccer cards on eBay. The second listing was in Dembele out of 65 swatch from Immaculate for $10 USD. PC guy for cheap from Immaculate. Thank you. Happy to help. Just hopefully it doesn't turn to $0 you come back and blame me. But I just feel like there's so many things in soccer in particular that are so cheap because people are chasing the wrong things. I think when you look about, I've talked about this before, when you look at the modern hobby, right? People, I think, speculate on the completely wrong things. And soccer has that to the nth degree because they prospect on players that should never be prospected on. And there's so many more of them that people just go bananas. When you think about the world of soccer, right, you have all these leagues literally all around the world. It's the most participated sport in the world. There are professional athletes in every country. The population of players that are of elite level is probably 10 times what's going on in the NBA. Maybe it's more. So the fact that you've got all these kids that people are spending money on is insane to me when it's harder for them to be the one guy. Like you look at basketball, people go hard for Wemby. Wemby could be the one guy because you might only see one Wemby every 10, 15 years, maybe longer. But in soccer, there's like 2 or 3 Wembys that come through a year that might not make it. So people go hard for them, but then it's so much harder for them to sort of be elite. Like, and you see that now with Yamal, and he's obviously only 17, and he's obviously won a Euro. This World Cup's going to probably do crazy for him if Spain do well. But it's so much harder to stand out in that sport that I don't understand why people go crazy for the prospects, because then you end up having someone like a Frank Lampard. Like the fact that this card cost me $600 USD shipped is insane to me. Like he has hardly any patch autos. The patch autos that he does have from the Panini era are Manchester City based. He played like 20 games for Manchester City, so it's insane to me. And those things sell for more than this. It's like, why does that happen? And then you look at other players that sell for 10 times the price of Lampard. It's like, if you know football, he's one of the greatest midfielders of all time. He's probably the greatest midfielder in the 15-year career that he played in England, in what was the most competitive league in the world at the time and probably still is. So it's insane to me how that can be so cheap, yet someone like a Yamal might have a base card that sells for more than this. It's just crazy to me. I don't get it. It's everything wrong with the hobby on steroids. Rant over. Shine and O'Leary claim to have sold a dual logo man of MJ and LeBron James for 10 millions. Is that the one that they recently bought, or because the one they recently bought was the Kobe Jordan, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't buy any of that stuff that those guys are talking about, patches, mate. They it just feels like very big market manipulation to me. You like Pedri cards if you're spending money on youngsters right now, and I've seen some of his stuff, but if you go back 2 years ago, his stuff was a lot more expensive, if I remember correctly. And it's like, is he gonna be the GOAT of GOATs in 10 years time? I don't know, guys. I just feel like it's everything wrong with the industry. If someone ships cards to you from the US, are there customs fees on your ends? Yes, there will be. It depends on the price point. So I think historically Australia's import tax was only $1,000 and above. Now I think it's on everything. So when you're buying cards, you're paying that import tax on every purchase. But a lot of people use ship my cards to avoid that. For me, I still claim my cards correctly, so I'll pay import tax on everything that I buy. But yeah, you will. I don't think you'll get it though if you send it to me, if that's what you're asking here. I think because you can send it as a gift. It's only if you're purchasing the card yourself. But I'm not a tax man, so don't ask me. But Bet people lost their butt on Nunez cards from Liverpool. Completely agree. Yamal is great, but it's driven up prices like crazy of guys like Esteval. Yep, it's weird. And then you have this trickle-down effect. I have to go in like 10 minutes. Let me just quickly message my wife, actually, before she cracks the shits. I've told you this before, right? You've got people that they've hyper-focused on what it is they want to buy, right? So they'll go ahead and say, hey, I want a Larry Bird Eminence card. I can't get a Larry Bird Eminence card. So what's the next thing that I want to buy? Okay, I'll try and get a Larry Bird Immaculate card. Okay, I can't afford one of those. So what patch shot do I want to get a Larry Bird? Oh, I might try and get something from Spectra. Okay, I can't afford that, so I'm going to try and get something from XYZ. And then next thing you know, because you can't buy the one thing you want, you've moved like 10 deviations away from what it is you wanted to buy. And then you find yourself in a position where, well, you didn't really want that thing in the first place. And I feel like there's a lot of collectors out there that are doing exactly that. They're moving away from what it is they actually want because they can't get the thing they want. And then when all things turn to crap, they then, have something they don't want. They want to try and sell it, and they can't sell it because nobody else actually wants it. And I feel like a lot happens with that. Happens with prospecting, where you can't get the prospect you want, so you have to go for somebody else. It's dumb. Buy the card you want, or don't buy it at all, in my opinion. I'm just about the wife cracking the shits comment. Pedri could be the next Iniesta or Xavi. He could be the next. Who's another dud player that I can't think of right now? He could be the next nobody, right? And that's why I'm not into speculation. I'm not saying don't collect what you want to like, what you like, blah blah blah. But yeah. There's another card here that I can show off, mate. It was Father's Day recently in Australia, maybe a month ago. It was on 7th of September, I think, maybe. But my wife got me this of the kids. So my wife and my sister actually made it. So that's me and my two kids. And yes, I am balding, which is why you probably see me wear a hat most of the time. But I thought this was pretty cool. It was just part of the random gift. You can actually see my sleeve, which is this arm over here. That was when the line work first got done. So I thought it was pretty cool, and apologies, my son's gone crazy in the background. But yeah, I thought that was a cool thing to get. They made that themselves. They printed it off with the paper. Yeah, how's it going, Warlock? Haven't seen you for a while. When people speculate, I tell them 90% of the time they end up being a Todd Van Poppel. I always use the example. So in 2015, I was really into breaks, and Select 2013-14 was really popular in Australia at the time. The boxes were so cheap. You got, guaranteed autograph in every box. And I used to sit there and people would hit Giannis and they'd laugh at you for hitting Giannis because everybody wanted Victor Oladipo. And you look back now and it's like people just have no idea. And obviously that's one instance, but every rookie year is the same. Like you probably can't even name rookies on your hand, right? You probably can't even say 5 rookies in the last, 15 years that have gone on to retain value, more than, 2 to 3 years after debuting. Maybe that's just, I've pulled that out of my ass, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on that. How do ship my cards determine the card's value? You have to do that for them. So say you buy on eBay, you buy a card on eBay, you ship to them. If you want to avoid that sales tax, you can use their Oregon facility, so you don't pay sales tax there. It then gets stored in your little vault. They charge you a fee for storing it there. It's like $3 for one card, if I remember correctly. And then when you want to ship it home, you can manually enter the purchase price of every single card, and as well as the insurance you sort of want on them. So yeah, it's all controlled by you, which is why people, I think, do the wrong thing and don't declare things properly. But my recommendation is to always declare things, because even if you try and, reduce the value but increase the insurance, if things go wrong there and those cards get lost for whatever reason, it's going to be hard for you to have that conversation with the mailing service to try and get your money back. So do the right thing, declare it, and then if the government wants to tax you, they'll tax you. The best thing about using them as well is that they store them for as long as you want. They can send things to you to get graded, and use Cardman 10, as it does say in that banner below, as it's flowing by, to get $10 credit. But they use FedEx, and their FedEx rates are pretty good. I think it's usually cost me like $50 USD to send, 20, 30 cards home, if not more. and it comes in like 3 business days, which is insane. Oh, 3 days, sorry, 3 to 4 calendar days, which is insane door to door. It gets from bloody California to me in that many days is awesome. Labubu's are the new Beanie Babies, yes. Especially here in Australia, my wife went crazy for them herself, actually. She managed to get a box and paid overpriced monies for a couple of them, but actually got a box at retail. So my kids now have a full set, but it's, yeah, the same crap as Beanie Babies, basically. Hey, what's up, Paul? I used to do them maybe once a month, but it's been really hard since my son was born. I've got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old now. So it's just really hard to find the time on the weekend, but I'm gonna bring them back. So I'm gonna try and do them this time every week now. Autos and patches, RPAs used to be special, just like 1 of 1 used to be special. When everything is special, then nothing is. Completely agree. It loses the meaning. And what people don't realize is people collect patch auto cards because they want them, right? They were scarce 10 years ago, 15 years ago plus. Now they're not. So are people going to want them in 10 years time? But people are stupid and they're still buying them for the same reasons why people were buying them 10, 15 years ago. But it's not the same anymore. It's chalk and cheese now. So that sentiment is going to be something that holds people back too. People just not thinking about what it is they're doing. You can't help people though. No, true, more often than not on prospects. I remember when Wilson was pushing Zion and Jar base Prism rookies. Hey, Gary Vee was doing that too. And there was a video that I really wanted to do from the National like 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, where somebody asked him why he left the hobby. And he said people were giving him crap. And I think he left the hobby because he gave people bad advice and he felt bad. He was out there pushing base tops rookies of people like LeBron and Steph, if I remember correctly. Who else was he pushing them for? The big one was Kobe. Kobe was the big one, sorry. And those cards are freaking worthless now. But he was saying that's the one to buy long term, despite the pop reports being insane. Love you, Dan. Love the content from upstate New York. I hope you're doing well, mate. And if anyone thinks Fnatic's being the only licensee or license holder in major sports, exception being hockey, you're going to miss companies. Yeah, like, so we need the competition. Like, I hope that lawsuit with Fnatic's actually, and Panini goes ahead. I'd love to see Panini and Fnatic's produce cards at the same time. And it should be a free-for-all. Let them have all licenses, let them have all players, don't let anyone have any exclusive agreements, and let people have some fun when it comes to, printing cards. You get some competition, get some innovation off the back of it. So if we use Boost when watching your videos, do you think that would help? Yeah, I think that's a new feature on YouTube. If you use that, it does help, apparently. But this is all the tricky stuff that YouTube have done too. Like, I think that's also impacted things. They've started changing stuff in the back end, but it's also weird. I think some channels are getting pushed like crazy right now. If you look at Professor Sports Cards, his videos are basically pumping. So much so to the point I asked him if he was promoting his videos or buying views because they're insane compared to almost everybody else in this space. But YouTube just likes to go through that cycle and push things differently for people at different times. It's just my turn to knock at anything. So again, I will say it. Please like it if you can. Please share the videos. Please comment where you can. I'm not saying you have to watch every single video, but if you can, it'll help. YouTube hates me at the moment and has hated me for the last few months. It's a bit demoralizing, but it is what it is. Thanks, Paul. You won't buy anything new. Too many parallels are now. Yep, way too many parallels. Completely agree. I'm not sure who you're referring to there, JB. I'm assuming Jeff Wilson. Wilson was saying LaMelo Ball was a great investment. He's a clown because he's now the investing guy, right? So he has to have hot takes. So now he's a character of himself, right? And he has to play that character. He has to be that guy. So he has to say dumb stuff like this in order to stay relevant. And what's hilarious is that over the years, he's barely got anything right. He's probably one of the worst investors in this space. We had innovation in the 90s, sports cards, especially basketball. And obviously that can be a bad thing, get too much stuff printed, but I think it has to be printed and controlled at the same time. Like, it has to be done with purpose. The professor is toxic. I actually did an interview with him. You're going to see it on his channel. We did it this time last week. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, keep an eye up. I don't mind the guy. I think it's interesting when people say stuff is toxic. Like, people say my stuff is negative. For me, it's like, just watch it. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But that's okay. Bill, he couldn't say Bo Bichette name correctly. There's actually a really funny video that Jeff Wilson did with the comeback card investor. I want to say in like 2021, they did a pack battle. Maybe go through it on YouTube if it's still up. And they were doing a pack battle, but neither of them knew any players. And that was basically peak hobby for me. You got these guys try to pretend like they like cards when in reality they don't. So I need to go in 2 minutes, guys. So get your last few questions in. The wife is pestering for me to go get the kids so we can take them to the shops and do some shopping, and then I gotta go cut the grass. What's up, Mike Petty? Appreciate you being around, mate. Haven't seen you for a while. And apologies for ending the show right as you joined. I'm going to try and do these at the same time on the regular. What I'm going to try and do next week is actually get people to jump in and dial in if you get a bit bored and want to. That's open, not forced. So if you do want to come on, you can. But today's one was just a bit quick, like I said, to get in quick before we do the stuff with the fam. Guys like Wilson are ruining the hobby. It's supposed to be fun, not a stock market. Unfortunately, Bill, that's too far gone now. It's BAU now with all this kind of stuff, so it's not going to change. Akabumi Tom Petty. How's it going, Scott? I think you've just joined as well. I'm actually dropping off, so I need to go now look after the kids. So, yeah, apologies, guys. It was actually good to chat for the last hour, so I really appreciate you guys as always. If there's other questions you want or things for me to talk about in the next live, drop them down below. If you've got any video ideas, please also drop it down below. Like I said, this is going to be a regular thing now. I'm going to do it at least once a week. So enjoy your night if you're based in the US, enjoy your day if you're based in Australia, and then obviously enjoy yourself wherever you are in the world. I'll try and catch you on the next one, but you'll see me here next week. I'm rambling, not making sense. Brain's not working. You love watching new breakers hit guys in the product due to union rules and scream like it's a huge hit. That's a huge problem as well. I've talked about that before. We also said Bichette played for the Dodgers. Wrong team. That says it all. Yeah, exactly. It's a Tesla. See ya, Bill. Okay, I gotta go, guys. Thank you again. Really appreciate you all. If you can like, that would be awesome. But I will see you in the next one. See ya. It actually won't let me end my stream, guys. There we go. I'm standing here still like an idiot. Anyway, guys, appreciate you. It's actually going to end now. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.